What's up, guys? Welcome back to Savage Rounds with Xavier. Today for you, I've got episode 29. We're covering UFC Vegas 81. Sodiq Yusuff taking on Edson Barboza. In the main event, Jennifer Maia, Vivian Araujo, co-main, and we've got some good fights on here. Jonathan Martinez, Adrian Yanez, Andre Petrosky stepping in on short notice to face Michelle Pereira up at 185. Christian Rodriguez, Cameron Simon, Battle of the Prospects. Terrence McKinney always puts on a fun fight. We've got some good fights today. Or I guess this Saturday. But yeah, let's get into it. Kicking off the card, we've got Ashley Yoder taking on Emily Ducote. Ashley Yoder, 35 years old, 8'8", 5'7", 69-inch reach, 1-4 in her last 5. Her last fight was a unanimous decision loss to Jin Yu Fry back in July of 2021. So it's been quite some time she fought, just over 2 years. And on the other side, we've got Emily Ducote, 29 years old, 12'8", 5'2", 63-inch reach, 2-3 in her last 5, 1-2 in the UFC. And her last fight was also a unanimous decision loss, but to Lupita Godinez, who is looking very good right now. She continues to get better. She'll be ranked soon, I assume. And that fight was in May of this year, so she's fought much more recently. She's much younger. Both the records are looking a little questionable. Emily Ducote, she's fought good competition throughout her whole career, and I think that's why she's 12-8, or even early on, she was facing some tougher girls. I should have written some down, but I didn't, and if I'm looking down, it's just because I'm looking at notes I took. So what I think with this one, Ashley Yoder, she needs to get this fight to the ground. I think if she can't, she's going to have a really tough time here. She's decently well-rounded, but I don't know, at 35, coming off of some pretty bad injuries. I can't remember what they were, but she's coming off of 2 surgeries, I believe, and that's why she's been out for so long. And I just think on the feet she's going to struggle quite a bit. If she can keep Ducote away from her somehow, I don't know what she would do to do that. It's just not something I really see in her toolbox. I think Ducote is going to be able to stuff takedowns. She's going to be able to get inside with the boxing, and I think she will probably eat up Ashley Yoder's leg as well. She's got some pretty good leg kicks. She does tend to wrestle. Sometimes she'll engage in that. She won't initiate it, but she'll engage in the wrestling. And I think if she tries to with Yoder on the ground, that could be her downfall in this fight. I don't think she will. Like I said, I like the takedown defense. I think she keeps it standing, gets inside with the boxing. I don't know if she finds a finish. Maybe if she's able to chew up that leg pretty bad, she will be able to. But I do like Emily Ducote to win this one. I really don't see a path to victory for Ashley Yoder unless she can consistently get this fight to the ground, which I just don't know if she will be, but we'll be able to. So Ashley Yoder's the pick here. Bet-wise, I'll talk about something later as we get closer to the Savage Rounds parlay, but nothing here for me other than what I'll talk about later. Next up, this is an interesting fight. Chris Gutierrez taking on Alatang Haley. Chris Gutierrez was supposed to be fighting, why can't I remember his name? Montel Quick Jackson. That would have been a sick fight, and I actually think I would have favored Montel Jackson there, even though it would have been a pretty good fight. But he's out. I can't remember why. Alatang Haley steps in on short notice, the Mongolian Knight, taking on Chris Gutierrez. 32 years old, 19, 5'2", 5'9", 67-inch reach, 4-1 in his last 5, and his last fight was a unanimous decision loss versus Pedro Munoz. Alatang Haley, 31 years old, 16, 8-2, 5'5", 66-inch reach, 3-1 in his last 5, and his last fight was a unanimous decision victory over Chad Anheliger. Chris Gutierrez fought earlier this year. Alatang Haley hasn't fought in just about a year. So this is an interesting one. I think Gutierrez should be able to win this, and he was actually, these odds, when I update them right before I start recording, so these are the most recent odds. Yesterday, Gutierrez was like a minus 400 favorite, so some people have put some money on Alatang Haley towards the end of yesterday, early this morning, maybe last night. But the line has shifted hugely, and I think the line now is more accurate. I think Chris Gutierrez, to be honest, there's a possibility he could make this look minus 400, but I think Alatang Haley is a dog. He is 4-1-1 in the UFC, if I'm not mistaken. I didn't write it down. I thought I did. I believe he's 4-1-1 in the UFC, so he's had quite the run. Maybe not fought the highest competition, but a good guy. I think he's going to have to get in close the distance, cannot let Chris Gutierrez kick him, crowd that kicking range, try and get inside. He's got to mix in the takedowns as well, and when he can start to mix in those takedowns, which, I mean, he will. He's a guy that loves to mix in the takedowns just to make the other fighter think of it, or what's the phrase I'm trying to think of? I can't think of it. He'll have to think about the threat at least of the takedown. And when Alatang Haley is doing that, if he's able to close that distance well and get inside, I think that'll open up the big power shots inside too. And I think that is his best path to victory. Chris Gutierrez has solid takedown defense, although Alatang Haley is a very strong guy, so it'll be interesting to see how he handles that. But for the most part, I like Gutierrez's takedown defense. So I do think a large portion of this fight takes place on the feet. And like I said, for Alatang Haley, he's going to have to get inside and land those big power shots, not let Gutierrez get those leg kicks off. And for Gutierrez, his game plan could work to a T here. If he's able to keep Alatang Haley at range, prod with those kicks, chew up the legs like he tends to do, and then put out volume with his hands, because he's not a power puncher by any means, but he can definitely go out there and put on some decent volume with the hands. He's quite decent defensively as well. You can see his striking differential is positive, and his significant strikes absorbed per minute, 2.76, well under his 4.7 output. So I think that is a pretty good look for him here. And like I said, the takedown defense is good, so I think he will be good there. I do like Chris Gutierrez to win this fight most of the time, to be honest. I do think he's just a better fighter overall, in my opinion, and I think with his toolbox, it'll be able to kind of slow down Alatang Haley, keep him away, not let him land those big power shots, and not let him get the takedowns like he wants. I have nothing on Chris Gutierrez right now, just because the line was so big yesterday when I had looked at it before. So the line comes in now at -260. I might take another look at some other props, see if anything else has moved around, because -260 is definitely playable now, so that is something I will be considering. But also, I do think this is a relatively, I don't even know, because there's paths for Alatang Haley to win. I don't know if I like him, but I think they're there, so you do have to watch out for that if you're on the Gutierrez side. I've seen some people playing him. He is a tough guy that'll definitely fight for your money, but I'm going with Gutierrez here. No bets from me now, but maybe like a decision prop or something, or maybe I parlay Gutierrez at -260. I'm not sure, but for now, I have nothing. Next up, Irina Alekseeva taking on Melissa Dixon. This is Melissa Dixon's debut in the UFC. Irina Alekseeva will be making her second appearance after getting her debut win over Stephanie Egger. You can see it down there. Alekseeva, 33 years old, 5-1, 5'8", 67-inch reach, 4-1 in her last 5, 1-0 in the UFC. And like I said, she had that victory over Stephanie Egger, round 1 submission, and that was back in April of this year. So she's fought not too long ago. We go to Melissa Dixon, 32 years old, 5-0, 5'7". I didn't see any reach stats for her, and obviously her 5-on-in is going to be 5-0 because that's all the fights she has. Like I did say, it is her debut, and her last fight was a round 1 KO TKO over Daria Zeleznyakova in November of last year. So it's been just about 12 or 11 months since she's fought. So that'll be interesting to see how she comes out with this little layoff. Nothing too crazy, but her last win actually for Melissa Dixon over Daria Zeleznyakova, that is her best win by far. She was 7-0 going into that fight, and she was actually supposed to be fighting on this card against somebody who's coming up later, Tainara Lisboa. She falls out, and Ravina Oliveira steps in, so we'll talk about that fight later. But it just goes to show her last win is actually quite good over somebody, at least Dana or the matchmakers would consider UFC level. So that's always a good win on her record, at least coming into the UFC with her most recent win. And for Alekseeva, it was a weird one. I wasn't too high on her coming in, but she looked good against Stephanie Egger. She was landing big body kicks, which was kind of surprising. Her punches are kind of wild. They're big and looping. But as soon as it went to the ground, she rolled for that leg lock, and it was nice. She got it. I do kind of think that is, again, going to be her lifeline in this fight, her path to victory. And Melissa Dixon is going to most likely take this fight to the ground. Both girls on the feet are okay. It's nothing special from either one. But both of them are willing to eat a shot, to give a shot. The striking defense is not really all that good. Melissa Dixon, she'll go for those takedowns. She likes to be heavy on top. She's got pretty good ground and pound. So that's where I think most of this fight will take place, is Melissa Dixon trying to get this fight to the ground where she can be on top and control time or land the ground and pound. And Alexieva, I believe, is going to be trying to create scrambles to get up or put herself in better dominant positions to find the submission. And to be honest, I think she finds it. I don't have too much to say on Melissa Dixon just because this is going to be her first appearance in the UFC, and I don't know, this isn't like the highest level fight, but I think it's winnable for both girls. If Melissa Dixon can go out there and stay out of danger, get control time, and do decent ground and pound, I think she can win this, but it's going to be on the ground for quite some time. Even maybe when she's going for takedown. Alexieva's got the good judo. I believe she was a Sambo champion, if I'm not mistaken. So the grappling's good. She can compete, and I think she finds that submission to end the fight. I think Melissa Dixon wins minutes here. It's probably her fight to lose, but it's going to be on the ground for all that time. I think Alexieva finds the submission somewhere. Alexieva's sub right now is sitting at plus 400. I probably won't play the plus 130 just because her win condition is probably finding the submission. Personally, I don't see how she's a minute winner here unless she's continuously like locking her up in submissions to win rounds, but she's just not able to get them. I personally don't see that. I think it'll be Melissa Dixon winning minutes and Alexieva finding that sub. So her at plus 400 might take a little stab at that, but nothing on the money line or anywhere else here. Other than that plus 400 little tiny sub shot I may take. Next up, T-Rex Terrence McKinney taking on Brendan Marote. I'm not sure how to say his last name, but a young kid coming in, making his debut. T-Rex, 29 years old, 14-6, 5'10", 73.5-inch reach, 2-3 in his last 5. His last fight was a round 1 KO TKO victory over Mike Breeden, not too long ago, just about 2 months ago, exactly 2 months ago from today, actually. And Brendan Marote, 26 years old, 8-1, 5'10", 72-inch reach, 4-1 in his last 5. This is his debut, like I said, his UFC debut, and his last fight was a round 1 submission victory over Lionel Young, who was 11-20 going into the fight. And that was also just about 2 months ago, a little bit more recently, just about 2 weeks after Terrence McKinney fought. And, this is an interesting fight because we all know what T-Rex can do. He goes out there, and if you look at his competition, to be honest, he beats everybody he should beat. But when he takes that next step up, I don't know if I wrote them down, but like his next step up, when he takes that step up, it's like Drew Dober, one of the Bonfim brothers, and his other loss, I can't remember off the dome. Actually, I could pull it up right here. I have it on my phone. Let's see. His other loss was to Nazim Sodiq. So he kind of takes that step up and he's not able to get the win. But when he's fighting a step down from that level, guys like Mike Breeden, Eric Gonzalez, obviously Matt Frivola is the outlier, but it happens. So he gets the job done when he's supposed to, and obviously he's run into trouble when he takes that step up. Marote on the other side, he hasn't fought the best competition by any means. 11-20, that is tough for your last fight, but he's a guy, he fights kind of long, like he's more, like they're the same size, they're both 5'10", and he's actually got shorter reach, but like his style's kind of like a longer guy's style. He's really wide, he can get hit because his stance is so wide, and I think that could cause problem here. McKinney throws big, powerful straight shots. We saw it against the likes of Matt Frivola, putting him out in 7 seconds, and then he was just able to put on the pressure on Mike Breeden. And I think if Marote's coming out and he's getting tagged early just because he is so wide, it could be a tough early first round for him. I also think T-Rex will probably be the physically stronger guy. So maybe if he goes out there and he wants to get the takedown, he can. Murat's a decent offensive wrestler, but his takedown defense is questionable, to say the least. So I do like Terrence McKinney here. If Brandon Murat can find a way to extend this fight, I think he has a chance if he can get it to extend to round 2, maybe even to, I mean, I doubt it goes to round 3, but if somehow he's able to extend the fight, I think because we know Terrence McKinney, he's a guy that puts it all out there, and once it's gone, and the tank is empty, and that normally happens in round 2. So if Murat's able to extend it, maybe he finds it, but I just think how he fights, I think the takedowns will be there, maybe a sub for McKinney, and just like I said, with how wide that stance is, he's definitely a hittable guy, and you don't want to be getting hit by Terrence McKinney early. So I'm going T-Rex to get this win. The line's huge, minus 600, and there were no props out on best fight odds, and I didn't see any on my book out either yet. So yeah, I'm staying away from this fight. And I did forget to say, this is actually short notice for Murat too. Although it is his debut, it is short notice as well, and typically he fights at 145. He's at 155 for this one. He was stepping in for Chris Duncan. Chris Duncan, Terrence McKinney would have been a sick fight, but we don't get that one, unfortunately. Regardless, the pick is T-Rex, and betting-wise, I'm definitely staying away from this one. Next up, Tainara Lisboa taking on Ravina Oliveira. I talked about this a little bit ago. I can't remember, did I write it down? Who she was supposed to fight? Oh yeah, Daria Zelenkova. I talked about that not too long ago when it was the Melissa Dixon fight, because that was her last win. So it was supposed to be Lisboa versus Zelenkova. Zelenkova is not able to make it into the cage. Ravina Oliveira steps in, also her debut. Lisboa, 32 years old, 6'2", 5'6", 67-inch reach, 4-1 in her last 5, 1-0 in the UFC. And her debut in the UFC, which was her last fight, was a round 3 submission win over Jessica Rose Clark in May of this year. Ravina Oliveira on the other side. I actually think it's Havina. I think the R is more like an H. So Ravina Oliveira, 26 years old, 7-1-1, 5'5". I didn't see any reach stats for her. She is 5-0 in her last 5. Like I said, this is her debut. And her last fight was a round 3 KO TKO victory over Simone da Silva in LKC 5. I believe there was like Livermento Combat something challenge. Livermento Combat Challenge. And yes, combat was with a K for some reason. But I think that's what it was called. But regardless, she got that victory. She comes in here, and I do think this is going to be a tough fight for her. On the feet, other than her last fight, she typically is a big, wild swinger. She will eat punches to give punches, and she throws those wild shots to close distance and try and get you down or clinch. I think Lisboa, her Muay Thai is great. We saw the grappling pedigree against Jessica Rose Clark a bit. She was able to find that submission at the end. And I just think this is a tough first fight for Oliveira. I mean, maybe she's able to come in and get the victory with those big shots and put the pressure on Tainara, but Tainara looks pretty good in her debut. The Muay Thai solid. She throws great kicks. Her clinch is solid. She throws really good clinch knees, and I think that can be a good thing against Oliveira here when she's trying to close distance. She can bring her in and get those knees and get her off, or maybe initiate grappling of her own. The takedown defense is solid, but where she's better is her scrambles are a bit better, so I think if she's able to create scrambles, maybe she finds herself on top on the ground. But I do like Tainara Lisboa overall in this fight. I think she has more paths to victory, to be honest. Like overwhelming, voluminous knockout, submission towards the end, decision. I think Ravina probably has to find a finish just because of how she fights. And I just don't see it. I think Tainara, with the Muay Thai background, is going to be able to stuff her trying to come in and those big looping shots. So, yeah. And actually, I wrote a bunch of notes down because of how crazy Ravina Oliveira's notes were looking at. Is it? Yeah. So every fight she's had, all 9 of her fights, were with different promotions. Her last fight, she fought for the LKC flyweight belt, like I told you. Before that, a month and 3 days before, she had won the MC fight bantamweight belt, so she's fought at a couple weight classes. She started 0-1-1, but has finished 7 straight. Like I said, every fight with a different promotion. Her competition has been suspect 5 debuting fighters. The last opponent she fought, the Simone da Silva girl, has gone 0-21 since 2019 across boxing and MMA. Yeah, those were just some crazy stats or like little details I saw while I was looking at her record and stuff. So that was just kind of crazy stuff. But regardless of all that, I like Tainara Lisboa in the fight. Like I said, the Muay Thai, the knees up the middle. She's the better striker, and I think she can stuff takedowns, create scrambles, do good in the clinch. I like Tainara Lisboa in this one. Probably no bet from me here, just because the line is minus 315 now. And, it is still Ravina Oliveira's debut. She hasn't fought the highest level of competition, so we really don't know yet. It'll be interesting to see how she does. But I'm going Tainara, no bets. Next up, a very interesting fight. We've got Darren Elkins taking on TJ Brown. Darren Elkins, 39 years old, 27-11, 5'10", 71-inch reach, 3-2 in his last 5. His last fight was a unanimous decision loss to Jonathan Pierce in December of last year. So it's been a bit since he's fought, not quite a year yet, but we're getting there. TJ Brown, 33 years old, 17-10, 5'9", 72-inch reach, 3-2 in his last 5, and his last fight was a round 2 submission loss to Bill Algeo, who just had a great performance against Alexander Hernandez, and that was back in April of this year. And so why I say this is an interesting one is because we know what Darren Elkins is. We know what TJ Brown is. TJ Brown is a solid grappler. The striking is but the fight IQ and the cardio are questionable, to say the least. Darren Elkins, he's a guy he is a relentless takedown artist. When he's on top, he goes for the ground and pound, he goes for the submissions, and his gas tank is endless, but he wears damage so bad. Striking defense, not where it needs to be anymore. He doesn't react to shots as well as he used to. And he can be controlled on the mat sometimes. Although he is a good scrambler, there is time where he can be held down on the mat. I think... what I think happens personally, I think TJ Brown probably gets takedowns early, and he's able to control the fight a bit, and maybe do some damage with elbows and stuff on top with some ground and pound. Darren Elkins will probably be bloodied up, and by the time we hit round 3, TJ Brown is going to be, if he hasn't gotten Darren Elkins out of there, which I don't personally think he will, but if he hasn't, Darren Elkins is still going to be there. And when TJ Brown is tired, if he's still trying to grapple, I could see the fight IQ question marks coming into play, him putting himself in a bad position, and Darren Elkins being able to get him out of there, maybe finding a submission, or maybe the decline of the cardio starts in round 2 because Darren Elkins is so good in the scrambles and he can make things hard, and he will just keep coming. So maybe TJ Brown starts to deteriorate a little bit earlier, and Darren Elkins is able to win 2 and 3 if he doesn't find the finish. But I think there's an interesting case to be made here for Darren Elkins. I've never been a big TJ Brown fan. I think I've only bet on him once, or I bet against him once, and that's the only time I've ever bet for him or against him. So I'm not too familiar with, betting him or against him, but just how I see on tape and just watching him fight, that's kind of how I think this fight plays out. So I may take a little shot at Darren Elkins here. He's sitting at plus 152 as the dog. Darren Elkins round 2 is plus 1,000. Darren Elkins round 3 is plus 1,200. I should have written down his decision line, but I think that is a little more far-fetched than TJ Brown putting himself in a bad position and getting submitted or grounded out or something crazy like that. But I'm going to take the shot here. I'm going Darren Elkins. To be honest, I'll take the shot. I don't know, maybe I won't because I've only bet against him once, but I was going to say maybe I'll take the shot against TJ Brown at plus 150 anytime, but clearly I won't. But I think it's probably a decent strategy. I'm going with Darren Elkins. I think he finds the win. TJ Brown gets tired. Darren Elkins is relentless, and the fight IQ is questionable. Next up, possibly the fight I'm probably second most excited for after Jonathan Martinez, Adrian Yanez. Christian Rodriguez taking on Cameron Simon. We've got 2 massive prospects who I love here. Christian Rodriguez, 25 years old, 9-1, 5'7", 71.5-inch reach, 4-1 in his last 5 with a win on Contender Series, and he's 2-1 in the UFC. His last fight was a unanimous decision victory over Raul Rosas back in April of this year. Cameron Simon on the other side, 22 years old, 9-0, never tasted defeat, 6 feet tall, 73-inch reach, 3-2 in his last 5. Is he 3-2? That's just not right. He's undefeated. I read that out and I was like, what? No, he's undefeated. I must have forgotten to change that. He's 5-0 in his last 5, obviously, because he's undefeated. And his last fight was a round 1 KO TKO victory over Terrence Mitchell, who was making his UFC debut in July of this year. And actually, Terrence Mitchell then just got slept by Raul Rosas Jr. not too long ago. I love this fight. I think these guys match up very well. I won't say like they fight the same, but they kind of have a similar skill set. They're both very good strikers, quite technical. Both have pretty solid kicks to all 3 levels. I think they're both solid wrestlers with submission ability. I favor the wrestling out of Christian Rodriguez a little bit, and to be honest, I think he may end up being the physically stronger guy in this fight. And where I kind of split the difference here is I think Cameron Simon is okay fighting off the back foot because he's decent at it. Christian Rodriguez likes to fight coming forward. He likes to be the one kind of initiating. He's not really a counter striker, and Cameron Simon will counter strike as well as initiate, but I could see in this fight Christian Rodriguez coming forward, Cameron Simon looking to counter strike until he can kind of land some shots. But I think both guys are going to look to mix in the wrestling here. And with C-Rod being the stronger guy, both guys have, I don't even know. That might be, I can't remember if I changed the stats at the bottom or not. So I don't know if these are right. I wish I would have. I don't know. That's annoying. But I want to say both guys have decent takedown defense, but can be taken down. Both guys have decent scrambling ability too. We saw it, Cameron Simon in his debut against, I can't remember his name. I think I have it written here. Stephen Koslow. So right after his Contender Series fight against Josh Wang Kim, he goes his debut taking on Stephen Koslow, who is a grappler through and through. Koslow was able to get him down at times, but Cameron Simon's scrambles were very good, and he was able to put himself in advantageous positions quite a bit. He ended up with more control time, which was kind of funny, and he ended up on top doing good ground and pound quite a bit. But I think he was stronger than Stephen Koslow in those situations, and I think if Christian Rodriguez is able to get on top, I think Simon could make it interesting and find scrambles, but I think it'll be a tougher time. And if Cameron Simon looks to mix in that wrestling C-Rod has, I think he's the better submission artist, so I believe Christian Rodriguez can look for those submissions. Maybe Cameron Simon leaves his head in there a little too long on a takedown, and Christian Rodriguez jumps a guillotine. Who knows? But I do like Christian Rodriguez in this fight. I like the forward pressure he brings, even though Cameron Simon has a bit more of the output. I think when he's moving forward, and he still throws quite a bit, I think it'll look like more. It'll feel like more, and I think that's what Christian Rodriguez does well. He moves forward, he throws, the kicks are great. Maybe he can chew up Cameron Simon's front leg, but I do like C-Rod to get this fight. I don't have any bets on this one yet because I do think it is a very close fight, and actually, to be honest, I think Cameron Simon has the higher ceiling as a fighter. He's younger, and I think if he can continue to develop those skills, especially on the ground, and clean up the striking a little bit, sometimes he can get a bit wild. Even though he is quite a technical striker, sometimes he ends up swinging big, and he's overextending at times. Both guys are hittable. I'd say Cameron Simon is a bit more hittable. He's bled in a few fights. C-Rod tends to have quite a good shell as he moves backwards. I don't like that he doesn't really cut off to the sides when he's moving backwards, but he does shell up pretty well, so I think he won't be absorbing as many shots as Cameron Simon. I like the straight shots from C-Rod. I keep talking about the kicks. Those kicks to the body and the legs he mixes in are great. And I think C-Rod gets this one done. I was actually kind of surprised. I thought Cameron Simon would be the favorite here. And same with that Jonathan Martinez-Yanez fight. I thought Martinez was going to be the underdog, but I was wrong on both. I'm going with C-Rod here. I think he gets it done. Probably by decision, which is sitting at plus 175. His subline is sitting at plus 350. I saw a few people on Twitter play that. Maybe I'll take a little shot at it. Probably not. I'll probably just end up watching this fight because I'm so interested in it, and I don't want to be nervous watching it. But yeah, I'm going with C-Rod as the pick here. I like him to mix the martial arts a bit better, be a little bit more sound defensively, and land some good straights down the middle, land some good kicks. I'm going with C-Rod, like I said. Next up, a rematch. Edgar Chairez taking on Daniel Lacerda. I'm not going to speak too much on this one because I have broken it down not too long ago completely. Edgar, I'll read out the stats actually. Edgar Chairez, 27 years old, 10-5, 5'7", 71-inch reach, 2-2 in a no contest in his last 5. In his UFC career, he has a loss on Contender Series, no wins, a loss, and a no contest. And his last fight was that no contest versus his opponent, Daniel Lacerda. Lacerda, 27 years old, also 11-5, 5'6", 70-inch reach. In his last 5, he has no wins, 4 losses, and a no contest. All of those losses were finishes. Like I said, I'm not going to say too much about this one just because I did a full breakdown for it not too long ago, and I don't see how this goes any differently than I said, especially considering how it looked early. Lacerda was trying to be patient, and nothing was really happening. I think he continues to probably try that in this one, and nothing continues to get off for him, so he will get desperate again and try and start swinging like crazy and land the big shots, and that's where I think Chairez can do his thing. He's a tough guy, he's durable, got a good chin, and he lands big power shots as well. The grappling is great. I could see Lacerda getting stuck in another submission, which I totally think he kind of like gamed that. He knew he was in a tough position, so he dropped his arm so the ref would stop it, and then he could be like, oh, I wasn't out. So I kind of think that's what happened there, but I mean, I don't really know. I'm going with Chairez. I think he's the more steady fighter. I trust him more, and I think he's more durable, better cardio, just all around, better fight IQ. I like Chairez. Petroski taking on Michel Pereira. I'm actually quite excited for this fight. I think this is a really interesting one. Michel Pereira, I can't remember who he was supposed to fight, but he's now moving up to middleweight, taking on short notice Andre Petroski, which this is interesting for many reasons, because it's up a weight class for Pereira. Will his power carry? He's not going to be the same huge, like he is huge at welterweight. He's not going to be huge anymore here. Like size-wise, obviously he'll still be the taller guy in this fight, but like size-wise, he won't be massive over these guys anymore. And he has not faced a grappler quite like Petroski. And on the other side, I'll go back to Michel Pereira. Great striker. When he's overextending himself and throwing a lot, the cardio can tend to slow. I won't say it fails him, but he can slow down for sure in those late rounds and lose minutes. Petroski, why I think it's interesting on his side, another guy who, if it's going his way and he's able to get the takedowns or hold you up against the fence, he looks good and his cardio holds. But if it's a little bit to be honest, even when he's winning, sometimes it can be tough for him late. But sometimes the cardio doesn't hold up late. Sometimes he looks fine. Sometimes it doesn't. We saw that versus GM3. GM3 was probably able to win that third round against him, and Petroski just looked tired. I think Petroski's never fought a striker quite like Michel Pereira, so they're each facing something they haven't fought, which is, I won't say it's their weakness, but it's not their strong suit either. I think if Petroski can go out there and get takedowns early, be heavy on top, he can make Michel Pereira tired trying to get up, maybe even clinch him up against the fence, just make things tough for him. And maybe he's able to find a submission late or win the first 2 rounds and go to decision. Michel Pereira, if he's able to land, which obviously I think he will, and his power still carries, Petroski could be in pretty big trouble here because he is very hittable. And when he gets tired, he could totally end up getting put out. But I tend to favor the grappling here. I don't know what it is. It's just when a guy is facing, it's like they're each facing something they haven't yet, and I think the grappling is probably a bit bigger of a factor, unless Michel Pereira's takedown defense holds up. I'm gonna go Petroski. I think I'm probably gonna be one of the few that goes Petroski. I think he's going to be able to win minutes, and I don't know. I don't trust his cardio. I'm going to stick with my gut. I'm going Petroski. I think he can win minutes and maybe find a submission on the ground with Michel Pereira trying to get up, putting himself in a bad position. Petroski has great subs. And he's just, I think, being up a weight class could be different for Michel Pereira. I don't know. I just don't know how it's going to translate. If it does translate, this could be a good spot for him because maybe the cardio doesn't burn as much, or maybe it does because he's heavier now. I don't know. There's a lot of questions. I'm going with Petrosky. I think he can win minutes early with the takedowns holding him up against the fence, and as long as he doesn't get starched, I think he can go out there. Like I said, get the minutes. I'm going with Petrosky. No bets here for me whatsoever. Oh, I forgot to actually talk about. I'm gonna go back real quick. I just wrote down some numbers for the Shirez fight. Shirez inside the distance was minus 250. Shirez sub plus 175. Shirez KO plus 165. If you are on the Lacerda side, which some people are, just because he tends to hurt his opponents early, but they withstand it, it has to be inside the distance at plus 375. Then moving back over to this one, Petrosky, you can just tell I'm kind of torn on this one, but just the way I've been talking about it, but I probably won't put a bet on Petrosky money line, but his sub line is at plus 500. I don't think it's an awful shot. Michel Pereira is a black belt, so that could be a little tricky. And the Michel Pereira KO is plus 200, which I also don't think is a bad one. I think if Petrosky is, man, actually, you know what? I'm not even gonna do that. I'm going Petrosky. I'm not betting on this fight. I'm staying away. You can tell I'm torn, but the pick is going to be Petrosky. I like the grappling just a little bit more, and it's up a weight class. The short notice scares me though. Next up, my favorite fight of the night. We've got Jonathan Martinez taking on Adrian Yanez, and this is an absolute banger. Jonathan Martinez, 29 years old, 18-4, 5'8", 70-inch reach, 5-0 in his last 5. His last victory, a controversial one, but a unanimous decision win over Said Nurmagomedov in March of this year. And Adrian Yanez, 29 years old as well, 16-4, 5'7", 70-inch reach, 4-1 in his last 5. And his last fight was his first UFC loss and his first loss via finish. He was knocked out in round 1 by Rob Font in April. So, to be honest, I thought Yanez was going to be the favorite just because he's kind of a fan favorite. And I don't know, I just didn't think Martinez had as big of a pull, but I guess the skills are what's keeping him as the favorite here, which I agree with. I think Yanez probably has to finish Jonathan Martinez, in my opinion. I think, which I totally think is possible. Jonathan Martinez has been hurt a few times in his fights. He's been knocked out. His stance is a bit wide too, like I was talking about with Moreau. Maybe Martinez can be hit down the middle. I mean, we've seen it quite a bit when he gets hurt, and to be honest, we've seen him get hurt with hooks too. That Davy Grant combo was nasty. But with Yanez, I think what he's going to have to do is his footwork here is going to be quicker. He's going to be the faster guy. The boxing from him is going to be better. We all know that. Adrian Yanez has great boxing. And it's quick. I won't say he's the most powerful guy, but the timing and the speed at which he's able to hit guys is what puts them out. It's kind of like the Sugar Sean effect. If you've got that speed and timing, you can totally still knock guys out if you're not the most powerful. Not to say he's got like pillow hands or anything, because obviously he doesn't, but it's the speed and timing that's what does it for him. And I think if he's able to counter off kicks and move Jonathan Martinez back so he's not able to stay at range and keep the kicking range, he could have success here early and put Jonathan Martinez out. I totally think it's possible. What I do think is going to happen is maybe Adrian Yanez is able to do decent. Actually, I'll say this. Adrian Yanez, sometimes he can start a bit slow when he's trying to figure out how he's going to get in, how he wants to land, where his counters are going to come off of. And I think if Jonathan Martinez, in that first round, while Yanez is still trying to figure it out, we saw versus Randy Costa. Randy Costa was able to keep him at distance, land good kicks, put out a decent volume and pressure, and Yanez still won that fight, but we saw Yanez in a bit of trouble at times. He was kind of backed up against the cage, and I think if Jonathan Martinez is able to do that early, put the pressure on, his kicks are incredible. We all know that he loves to set things up off the kicks, and he'll throw the kicks straight too by themselves. Big, powerful body kicks. Leg kicks are great. He'll throw it up to the head too. If he's able to chew up those legs, go to the body well, and mix in those boxing combinations. Obviously, he's not like the best boxer. He's not an Adrian Yanez level boxer, but his boxing is good enough. to follow those kicks. I think he's the more well-rounded guy too. He's the better grappler, I would say. So maybe he mixes that in, or like at least makes Yanez think about it. And I think he gets the win here. Maybe it's so for him. I think it's going to be. He feels more steady to me when I was watching tape. It's like Yanez wants to explode and find these big finishes, but it's not like I don't think he can go out there and outpoint Jonathan Martinez, is what I'm trying to say. I think Martinez will be steadier over 3 rounds. I think if he can keep working that leg kick and keep working the body kick, I think that can be very good work for him late. Maybe he's able to find a late stoppage, putting pressure on Yanez, or win a decision. I tend to lean decision, but it is totally possible that he's able to work the leg and the body and find a finish late. I do have a bet on this one, straight money line on Jonathan Martinez. I caught him, I believe, at minus 122. I just placed a bet to win a unit. So the bet tells you enough. I'm going with Jonathan Martinez here. I like the more well-roundedness. I like the kicks. I think Yanez can win this fight, but I do think he has to put Jonathan Martinez out early, or the train will start to roll downhill. The kicks will come. The forward pressure will come, and it will be a tough night for Yanez. So I'm going with Jonathan Martinez here. His decision line sitting at plus 275. His round 3 line sitting at plus 100. And the Yanez KO line is sitting at plus 200 as well. I don't know why I said as well. Is sitting at plus 200. So those are the kind of the lines I like for each guy. Personally, I know if you're on the Yanez side and you think you can go out there and win it over 3 rounds, which I know some people do, and I think is totally fair. You could also bet that line, but from my perspective, I see it as kind of I like the KO line, and I like a decision/late KO for Jonathan Martinez. Next up, the co-main event, Jennifer Maia taking on Viviane Araújo. Jennifer Maia, 35 years old, 21, 9-1, 5'4", 64-inch reach, 3-2 in her last 5. Her last fight was a unanimous decision victory over Casey O'Neill back in March. Viviane Araújo, 36 years old, 11-5, 5'4", 68-inch reach, 2-3 in her last 5, and her last fight was a unanimous decision loss to Amanda Ribas, also in March, but just a bit earlier. Jennifer Maia currently on a 2-fight win streak. Like I said, she beat O'Neill. Before that, she beat Marina Moroz. And Viviane Araújo coming in on a 2-fight losing streak. She beat Andrea Lee, and then 2 in a row dropped to Grasso and Ribas. Those are tough fights, so obviously, yeah, you're not going to win them all. But in this fight, I do favor Jennifer Maia here. It's another case of I think she's more steady. Viviane Araújo has good power for the weight class. She's a very solid striker, and she mixes in the grappling quite well. But her problem to me seems to be she needs to find her rhythm, and if she can't get into that rhythm, she kind of finds herself standing and not throwing as much as she should, which ends up in her losing minutes, and here we are with a unanimous decision loss. And I kind of see it going that way. I think Jennifer Maia can stuff takedowns here, and the way Jennifer Maia strikes, I love her boxing. She's tough, she's durable, she'll eat one to give one. I think she can get inside. She loves to do those like blitzes where she runs in and throws a quick little combo, and I think that's going to be a tough ask for Viviane Araújo to find her rhythm while Jennifer Maia is breaking it up consistently like that. I think she has the better cardio too. Viviane Araújo definitely starts to slow down. I just trust Jennifer Maia more. When it gets to the ground, she's a good grappler too, so I'm not like scared if it goes to the ground. I like Jennifer Maia in this fight a lot everywhere. I was talking about the Ducote fight. I said I didn't have any bets, but I'll talk about it later. So Jennifer Maia, I have a parlay. It's just the 2 girls, Ducote, Maia. I believe it's sitting at like plus 104 or something. And that's the only other bet I have laid down right now. So it's Jonathan Martinez and that little parlay. So there's a couple things I'm still looking at, which I talked about during this. And yeah, I think Jennifer Maia wins this fight at a pretty high clip. Like I said, Viviane Araújo, I think she's going to have a tough time getting into her rhythm. But to be fair, once she does get into her rhythm, she rolls downhill pretty well, and she can do good work. But I just think Jennifer Maia is going to be able to break up that rhythm, going to be able to stuff the takedowns, going to be able to blitz really well and land some shots to get this fight done. I think it goes to the decision. Like, 99% of the time, and I'm going Jennifer Maia to get it done. Next up, another banger on the card. The main event of the evening taking place at featherweight. Sodiq Yusuff taking on Edson Barboza. Yusuff, 30 years old, 13-2, 5'9", 71-inch reach, 4-1 in his last 5. His last fight was a round 1, 30-second submission win over Don Shainis in October of last year. So it's been, it'll be almost 2 weeks, over a year since he has last fought. Edson Barboza on the other side, 37 years old, 23-11, 5'11", 75-inch reach, 3-2 in his last 5, and his last fight was a round 1 KO victory over Billy Quarantillo in April of this year. So, I'll start off by saying this. I think Sodiq Yusuff is going to win this fight. I do think Edson Barboza can win this fight. For Edson Barboza to win, I think he will have to find an early knockout. Sodiq Yusuff gets dropped in the first round. I won't say, often, but it happens. It's happened before, a couple times. And with the kind of striker Edson Barboza is, the ferocity he throws into all his strikes, it is definitely a possibility. Why I favor Edson Barboza, though, or why I favor Sodiq Yusuff over Edson Barboza is the age, the gas tank, and the toughness of Sodiq Yusuff. Sodiq Yusuff, all those times he's been dropped, other than Arnold Allen, he's been able to come back and get the win. He's also able to take some shots too, even though he's getting dropped. He will still eat some shots later on in those fights. Edson Barboza in that Billy Quarantillo fight, Billy Q was coming forward and landing shots. Billy Q was looking good. He was in that fight. Edson Barboza's eye was all puffed up. That was a very close round. Edson Barboza was still landing good shots as well. But up until Edson landed that knee, it was a very close fight, and Billy Quarantillo was doing well. I think Sodiq Yusuff is a better striker than Billy Quarantillo, and he's the quicker striker. I like how he can mix in the kicks as well, like Edson Barboza. Sodiq Yusuff checks kicks very well. Obviously, he's going to get hit with some, but I like that he checks kicks well. I trust the cardio more. Edson Barboza is 37 years old. He's not eating shots like he used to. He doesn't wear damage like he used to. And once this gets out of the first round, to be honest, I think Edson Barboza sees quite a drop-off in the cardio. Sodiq Yusuff can mix in some grappling as well, maybe, if he wants to. I think he will be the better grappler here, even though Edson's got good takedown defense. Just things to make Barboza think, to make him tired. And I think Sodiq Yusuff gets the win. I probably have him... I think he'll get the finish here. I want to say late round 3, early round 4. I just don't know if once Edson starts to get tired, if he's going to be able to take as many shots. And I think Sodiq's going to be able to put it on him pretty well with his cardio. That's all. It was a great card. Like I said, there's some sick fights. C-Rod. We went over them. I don't have to name them all again. But now we get into the Savage Rounds parlay. Last week there was none. I didn't have a predictions video, so there was no Savage Rounds parlay. I didn't even place any bets on the fights. So we're still sitting at 16 and 13 plus 4.1 units from 2 weeks ago. And we come into this week, I'm throwing you the Savage Round. It's a parlay that I've already played. Normally, I'll make the Savage Rounds parlay before I sit down to record and then go play it after. But this time, this is when I had in a bit earlier in this week. So I think Emily Ducote in my line, I got her at 380, so it's a little bit better. But I think Jennifer Maia was probably minus 155. So it was. I think I got it at plus 109. But for Savage Rounds, these are the lines currently. Emily Ducote minus 400, Jennifer Maia minus 149. It comes out to plus 104. We put a unit on this, we get back above 5 units, and we can start the streak again. I think both of these, I think Yoder will have a very tough time against Ducote. I personally don't see how she really goes out and wins the fight. And like I said, I just talked about the Jennifer Maia fight. That one's still fresh in your brain. The blitzes, she's tougher. I like the cardio a bit better. I can see Vivian not being able to get into her rhythm and kind of getting stuck, not throwing as much as she wants to. Jennifer Maia can stuff the takedowns too. I love this parlay sitting at plus 100. I do think it should hit at relatively high clip. The one that I have a hard time seeing Yoder messing this one up. I mean, we'll see. It is a fight, so anything can happen. But if someone were to mess it up, I would guess it would be Vivian. I think this hits, though. I like this parlay a lot. Ooh, and there we go. That is Savage Rounds episode 29. Go check out, if you haven't seen it yet, yesterday I did matchmaking and a recap of UFC Vegas 80. If you haven't seen that, check it out. Drop a like on this video, subscribe, and I will see you guys next week on Monday or Tuesday for the recap of this. We'll talk about how it went. Peace out.